Hello everyone and welcome to my B&B Fan Club channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. The fall leaves dropped in a slow, melancholy flow outside the Forrester estate, their golden hues masked by the dark sky that hung over Los Angeles. Inside, the air was thick with tension, in stark contrast to the excitement that had filled the magnificent halls just weeks before for Hope Logan's wedding. The celebration had been a spectacle, with white roses flowing from every angle, champagne flutes clinking, and laughter reverberating throughout the estate. Hope, resplendent in her ivory gown, stood beside her new husband, Thomas Forrester, pledging forever. However, it appeared that eternal was a flimsy concept. Hope sat alone in the guest room, her wedding band glinting dully on her finger as she held the positive pregnancy test. The two pink lines were clear, a subtle declaration of life that should have made her happy, but instead felt like a stone falling into her heart. She hadn't informed Thomas yet. She had not informed anyone. The weight of the secret pulled against her, stifling her as she struggled with a fact she couldn't even admit to herself. She had no idea who the father was. The weeks leading up to the wedding had been a blur. Hope was caught up in an emotional whirlwind, divided between her dedication to Thomas and the lingering pull of her prior relationship with Liam Spencer. Liam, with his earnest eyes and the history they shared, had always been a problem. A late-night talk at his beach house, intended as a final farewell, had turned into something more, a moment of weakness, a fleeting return to the comfort of the familiar. She'd convinced herself it was a mistake, and she'd buried it deep as she walked down the aisle. But now that error was rising to the surface, threatening to destabilize everything. Hope's hands trembled as she placed the test on the bedside table. She remembered Thomas's steadfast loyalty and belief in their future. He'd been so patient and keen to prove that he was the right man for her, and she'd wanted to believe in him and them. But the doubt gnawed at her like a persistent whisper. What if the baby isn't his? Downstairs, the Forresters were gathered in the living room, unaware of the storm gathering in Hope's heart. Rich Forrester, patriarch and eternal optimist, was discussing the latest Forrester Creations line, his voice booming with pride. Steffi, his daughter and Thomas's sister, sat with her arms crossed, her piercing gaze sweeping the room. She had never truly trusted Hope, thinking that her heart still belonged to Liam. And then there was Luna, Hope's assistant and confidant, who sat quietly in the corner, her face pallid and her eyes red with tears. Luna held her own secrets. She'd caught Hope's whispered phone chat with Liam the day before, pieces of a conversation implying something unspoken. Luna adored Hope and regarded her as a mentor and friend, but the notion that Hope was concealing something that may harm Thomas, tore at her. Luna had always been faithful, but her allegiance was crumbling beneath the weight of her suspicions. She'd watched Hope's smile slip when Thomas mentioned their future, and how her eyes shifted when Liam's name came up. Luna's heart hurt with betrayal and anguish, for Thomas, Hope, and the family she had grown to love. Hope walked down the stairs slowly and deliberately, as if each step carried the weight of her decision. She hadn't intended to tell anyone yet, but the words were burning in her throat, demanding release. When she entered the living room, the conversation came to a halt, and everyone's attention was drawn to her. Ridge's smile faded when he saw the strain on her face. Steffi's brow wrinkled as her senses kicked in. Luna turned aside, reluctant to face Hope's eyes. "I need to tell you something," Hope murmured, her voice barely audible. The room fell silent, the air heavy with anticipation. She took a deep breath and clasped her hands tightly in front of her. "I'm pregnant." The statement hovered in the air like a frail thread about to snap. Ridge's face brightened up briefly, his paternal instincts taking over, but Steffi's eyes hardened, searching Hope's expression for the truth. Thomas, who had been standing near the fireplace, froze, his expression a mix of amazement and tentative excitement. "Pregnant?" he repeated, taking a step closer to her. "That's incredible, Hope." Yet her silence was more powerful than her words. She didn't meet his gaze or extend for his hand. Instead, she looked down, tugging the edge of her sweater. "There's more," she explained, her voice breaking. "I don't know who the father is." The place became chaotic. Steffi rose to her feet in an instant, her voice shrill. "What do you mean? You don't know?" Ridge sought to intervene, raising his hands in a vain attempt to quell the tempest, But Steffi's rage was unwavering. Thomas stood motionless, his face losing color as the words set in. Luna, remaining in the corner, clasped a hand to her mouth, tears streaming down. Hope's eyes welled with tears as she attempted to explain, her words stuttering over one another. That was a mistake. It happened before the wedding, before I exchanged vows. I thought I could move forward and leave it behind, but... Her voice cracked as she shook her head. I'm so sorry, Thomas. Thomas's face stiffened, and a flicker of betrayal crossed his features. He murmured, Liam, with a deep growl. It was not a question. He knew. He had always understood, deep down, that Liam was a shadow from which he could never totally escape. You were with him, Hope admitted. She could not. The truth was a scalpel, slicing through the frail relationships they had formed. I didn't mean for this to happen, she said. Thomas, I love you. I choose you. But her words rang empty, even for her. Thomas turned away, tightened his fists, and walked out of the room without speaking. The silence that followed was deafening, interrupted only by Steffi's sudden intake of air. You're leaving, she replied, her voice chilly. Hope you don't get to stay here. Not after this. Rich protested, but Hope shook her head. She's right, she replied gently. I can't remain. Not now. The next few days were a whirl of pain and packing. Hope moved out of the Forrester estate, packing her items into luggage and preparing to leave behind the life she had made. She hired a tiny apartment across town, in sharp contrast to the magnificence of the Forrester estate. The walls were bare, and the rooms echoed with emptiness, just like her emotions. She spent her nights staring at the ceiling, wondering how she had let this happen. Liam came to see her one evening, his face filled with guilt and hope. Hope we can figure this out, he replied, his voice quiet but eager. If the baby is mine, I will be there. I'll always be there. But Hope couldn't look at him. She saw the past in his eyes, the years of back and forth, the hurt they had caused each other. I need time, Liam, she explained, her voice tired. I need to figure out who I am without all of this. Luna also paid a visit, her allegiance to Hope conflicting with her wrath. Why haven't you told me? She inquired, her voice full of emotion. I could have helped you, Hope. Hope reached for Luna's hand, but she jerked away. I didn't want to drag you into this, Hope explained. I thought I could handle it on my own. You can't, Luna replied, her voice breaking. Hope, you cannot do this alone. But you created it so that no one could help you. The words stung, but they were accurate. Hope had erected walls around her heart, blocking away even those who cared the most. She thought of Thomas and the pain in his eyes as he walked away. She imagined the baby developing inside her, a life caught in the crossfire of her mistakes. She imagined the future, uncertain and frightening, spread out before her like an unexplored sea. Weeks passed into months, and Hope's pregnancy progressed alone. She went to doctor's appointments alone, putting her palm on her swelling abdomen and listening to her child's steady heartbeat. She wasn't sure if it was a boy or a girl, if it had Thomas's dark eyes or Liam's easy smile. All she knew was that she loved this child deeply and unconditionally, even though it bound her to a history she couldn't escape. Hope sat down with a pen and paper one evening, while rain fell on her apartment windows. She began writing to her unborn child, not Thomas, Liam, or Luna. The words flowed forth, a mix of apologies and pledges, a pledge to be better, to be sufficient. I don't know what the future holds, she wrote, her handwriting wobbly yet determined. I don't know if I'll ever be able to make up with the folks I've harmed. But I promise you that I will love you with everything I have. I will be your home, your safe haven, no matter what. As she set down the pen, tears flowing down her cheeks, Hope felt a slight kick against her palm, a delicate reminder of the life within her. It wasn't forgiveness yet, but rather hope, small, delicate, and passionately alive. And for the first time in months, she allowed herself to believe that she might be able to reconnect with herself. But the path ahead was long, and the consequences of her decisions persisted. Thomas had stopped returning her calls, his quiet like a wound that refused to heal. Liam, ever persistent, left voicemails she couldn't bear to listen to. Even though she checked in, Luna carried a sadness that echoed Hope's. The Forrester family, once her steadfast support, was now a distant memory, their trust destroyed by her betrayal. Hope stared at her window, watching the rain turn the city lights into a kaleidoscope of colors. She reflected on the life she had left behind, the love she had lost, and the uncertain future that awaited her. She was alone yet not empty. The baby, her kid, was a light in the darkness, a cause to persevere. And as the storm roared outside, Hope made a secret vow to her child. She would bear the consequences of her faults, but she would not let them define her. She would be a mother, a fighter, and a woman who relearned to love herself as much as her child. Hope Logan's narrative was far from over, but it wasn't a fairy tale. It was a story of heartbreak, secrets, and a lady on the verge of her own life, looking for a chance to start over. And in the silence of her flat, with the rain as her only witness, she made her first timid step toward redemption. The night air was heavy with the smell of rain and champagne. Hope sat on the side of the bed in the dimly lit hotel suite, her bridal gown draped over her like a falling cloud. The laughter from downstairs had long faded, replaced by the monotonous hum of city traffic and the odd burst of wind against the glass. She clutched her stomach, fingers trembling. It was meant to be the most wonderful night of her life, but something inside her felt crushed beyond repair. Ethan had fallen asleep with his tuxedo jacket strewn carelessly across the chair. His vows had been meticulously rehearsed, with every word and smile perfectly timed. Everyone claimed they were a wonderful match, two souls intended for each other. Hope had wanted to believe it as well, but she recognized that perfection was nothing more than a facade. It concealed 1,000 unspoken truths, as well as one secret that suddenly surged under her hand, a heartbeat that was not Ethan's. The baby growing inside her was evidence of a mistake, or even a moment of weakness. But calling it a mistake seemed cruel. What happened to Liam had not been planned. It had been one night, a collision of loneliness and need, followed by too many tears and stillness. Hope had turned to Liam for consolation as Ethan had grown distant, the wedding plans had devolved into disputes, and love had begun to feel like a chore. She never expected Liam to still care, or that the warmth of his embrace would reawaken something she had buried years before. And now she carries his child. The term pregnant still reverberated in her mind like a curse. When the doctor informed her, she smiled pleasantly, assuming it was excellent news. But that night she'd spent hours in her car, unable to go home. The city lights blurred through her tears, and for the first time, she felt truly lost. She had tried to tell Liam, but every time she saw him with Luna, his new lover so kind and bright, her throat tightened. He seemed joyful and she didn't want to disrupt it. He did not deserve another pain, especially from her. So she had remained silent. She'd gone forward with the wedding, assuring herself that Ethan wouldn't have to know. But while she sat there, the truth gnawed at her like a living creature. Every commitment she made felt like a falsehood wrapped in lace and silk. A gentle knock disturbed the silence. Hope's heart stopped. She carefully got out of bed, her bare feet silent on the carpet. When she opened the door, Luna stood there, soaked from the rain and her eyes red from sobbing. "Luna," Hope whispered. "What are you doing here?" Luna's voice quivered. "I needed to see you." I know." Hope froze. "Know what?" "The baby," Luna whispered softly. "It's Liam's, right?" For a long time neither spoke. Hope felt the world tilt. "Who told you?" she eventually queried in a raspy whisper. "Liam didn't have to," Luna explained as she stepped inside. "He has been distant for weeks. I assumed it was me. But then I found the ultrasound in your car with your name and the date. I put it together." Hope's chest clenched. "Luna, I apologize. You weren't supposed to find out." Luna let out a sad laugh. "You weren't supposed to fall in love with him again, correct?" Hope's eyes welled up with tears. "I did not plan this. Just happened. Ethan and I were breaking up, and Liam was present. He knew me like no one else ever has." "That's not an excuse," Luna remarked softly. "You knew he was trying to move on." Hope looked down, unable to meet her sight. "I understand. And I ruined it for both of you." Luna's eyes sparkled. "Will you tell Ethan?" Hope shakes her head. "How could I? It would ruin him." "So you're going to lie?" Luna's voice crackled. "Raise Liam's child like Ethan's?" Hope muttered. "I don't know. Maybe lies are the only way to get through this." Luna turned away, her shoulders quivering. Do you believe suppressing the truth will save you? It'll ruin us all. Rain raced across the pane like tears. Hope wanted to say something to beg pardon, but words seemed worthless. When Luna eventually went, the silence was awful. Hope collapsed to the floor, pressing her hands to her face and sobbing till she could scarcely breathe. Days progressed into weeks. Hope wore her smiles like armor, carrying out her new job as a wife with mechanical grace. Ethan remained blissfully unaware, preoccupied by work and the life they were creating. He talked of buying a house and painting the nursery. Hope nodded and agreed, even as her heart cracked somewhat more each time. But Luna couldn't conceal her anguish. She avoided Liam, denied his calls, and when he eventually confronted her outside her apartment one evening, she broke down. "Tell me what I did," Liam implored. "Please, Luna, I can't fix it if I don't know." Luna shook her head, tears streaming down. "You did nothing, Liam." "Who did it?" he demanded. "Hope," Luna whispered. "She's pregnant." Liam blinked, his astonishment turning to incredulity. "What? But she's married." "It's yours," Luna replied. "She told me." He staggered back as if struck. "That's inconceivable." "She attempted to conceal it. I found out before she did," Luna explained. "And now she's pretending it's Ethan's." The world around Liam became silent. The words did not feel authentic. He remembered that night, how she had clung to him, how they had agreed it meant nothing. He had trusted her when she said it was over. But now? A baby? "I need to talk to her," he stated, his voice quivering. "Don't," Luna urged. "If you go to her, everything will fall apart." But he had already left. When Hope opened the door that night and found Liam standing there, drenched from the rain, her heart stopped. "You shouldn't be here," she stated. "I know," he replied. "But I had to see you." She tried to shut the door, but he pushed softly against it. "Luna told me." Hope's breath caught. "Then you know." Liam went inside, his eyes filled with confusion and pain. "Is this true?" She gave a slow nod, tears welling up. "Yes." He moved away, holding the back of a chair as if to stabilize himself. "Why haven't you told me?" she muttered. "I couldn't. You seemed happy. I didn't want to ruin that." "I had the right to know," he replied, his voice shaking. "That's my child. Please don't make this any harder," she begged. "I am married, Liam. Ethan believes it is his. If he finds out, it will wreck everything." "Maybe it should," Liam said angrily. "Maybe lies shouldn't win." Hope's tears flowed freely now. "Do you think I wanted this? That I intended to harm everyone? I wake up every day hating myself." Liam's rage turned to grief. "So what do you want me to do?" "Forget," she replied. "Pretend it never happened." He looked at her, bewilderment on his face. "You want me to forget my own child?" She turned away, unable to confront him. "It's the only way." There was a lengthy time of stillness. Then Liam spoke, barely above a whisper. "You're stronger than this, Hope? Or at least you used to be." When he went, she collapsed on the floor, her sobbing muffled by quivering hands. The rain outside seemed never-ending. Months have passed. Her tummy expanded, as did the weight of her secret. Ethan painted the nursery yellow, singing gently as he worked, and Hope felt her heart break little more with each stroke of the brush. She had envisioned parenthood as a delight, but suddenly it felt like penance. Each flutter of life within her was both a miracle and a reminder of all she had accomplished. Luna paid us a visit one evening. Her face was pallid and her eyes sunken. "Liam's gone," she said. Hope's heart stammered. "What do you mean?" "He left town," Luna explained sadly. "No one has seen him for days. He stated he needed to start over somewhere new." Hope felt the world shift again. "Because of me?" Luna nodded. "He couldn't live with it." Hope clasped her hands over her belly, tears streaming down her face. "I never meant to ruin his life." "Some things can't be undone," Luna replied sadly. "We all made choices." After Luna left, Hope entered the nursery. She sat in the rocking chair, the warm yellow walls illuminated by the lamplight. She whispered to the child inside her, her words tinged with both anguish and love. "I don't know if I deserve you," she said. "I'll love you nonetheless." even if it breaks me. When the baby was born, Ethan sobbed with delight. Hope smiled for the cameras, the nurses, and the relatives who had come to see. But when she gazed down at her daughter's eyes, which looked so much like Liam's, her chest tightened. Years have passed. Hope reared her daughter Grace with all her affection. Ethan has never questioned the truth. But every time Grace laughed or smiled in that familiar manner, Hope's heart ached with pride and anguish. She wondered if Liam ever thought about them, if he'd rebuilt his life, and if he'd ever forgiven her. Luna ultimately went on, finding comfort in the distance. The three of them became ghosts in each other's stories, united by an inconceivable secret. And yet, late at night, when the world was silent and Grace slept beside her, Hope would mutter into the darkness, "I'm sorry." She wasn't sure if she was apologizing to Liam, Ethan, or herself. Perhaps all three. Love doesn't always end with a farewell. It lingers, sharp, frightening, and beautiful in its ruin. Hope kept it with her always, concealed beneath her smiles and her child's sweet laughter. Because some truths, no matter how deeply buried, will never die. They simply exist quietly, beating, breathing, in the hearts of those who dare to love and break at the same time.